Progress. As some of you may have seen on my Instagram, disconnected the engine, front assembly, all the necessaries to remove it from the car, and I'm quite fortunate I've got a flat platform that I've sunk into the ground, so I can lift the Mini right up to the roof. Unbolting the turret bolts, front subframe bolts, the ones that sit just down underneath the front valance, and then the floor bolts for the rear mounts. So I've still got the actual brackets on the floor. The previous owner said that it was quite scary to drive, and I can see why now, because I can see how this car's actually got a valid MOT in the respect that that rubber mount there and this one over here were not even attached to the metal bit that is still, you can't see it, but still on the toe board. So the rear mounts weren't attached. The turret bolts were obviously the key factor that was holding in the top of the subframe, and out of the two front teardrop mounts, this one over here wasn't attached to the body, and the actual body itself, as you may have seen in a couple of pictures on my Instagram, so far all this has been picked off by either just pulling the panel or easing it with a screwdriver. The panels, some of them are actually in good enough shape to just clean up and reuse, because they've obviously, whoever's repaired this previously, I mean, all the original that's here is pretty solid. Someone's patched in what would have been the vent hole, so I need to reintroduce that. They've done a horrible bit on this edge here, so I'll probably end up just replacing that whole inner flitch panel just to make life a lot easier. But it's just the sake of the same old age-old thing, isn't it? People just cut out the rot that's there at the time, leave the existing, bare metal it enough to get welds on it. But this here, it's actually the original, because it's got the number still on the inner edge there. So I want to try and keep that. It's solid, there's no bubbles of rust across the window or anything. It's just where someone has repaired this previously, they've literally got, where you can see the filler's broken in 3 places, they've got 3 very sort of snotty welds. It's like there wasn't enough gas or maybe heat for penetration. But like I said, the actual panel itself is quite clean and good nick, just needs a prep and then it can go back on, but go back on properly. Let me try and find it. Oh, just in here is where the pickup used to live. Now all the other bits and pieces are in here, and this is kind of the workspace, which ends up being the spray room as well, but at the moment it's just fully de-assembly. Also, someone in the past has replaced the rear subframe bolts, which is great, into the toe board, and the 2 rear that go through the floor on the back of the subframe. If you've ever taken one out, you know which I'm talking about. All of them finger tight, not even done up. So how this car's even passed an MOT is beyond me. But here we are anyway. So panels right up here. So besides the ton of filler, if I actually clean that up, you can see how many welds were literally holding it on. I think it was more so the filler. But yeah, even the A panel, it's got a slight twist at the top there, but if I can save the money, it's quite a new panel, but it's even got the sticker on it still. got one of these spare valances given to me, so scuttles. So worst case is that's been put on a car but taken off. It's got some repair bits or bits of metal I could use for elsewhere, just for some small repairs if needs be. So far I know I'm going to be putting a new front end on it. Need to keep the front end number, or the later chassis shell number. Obviously the VIN number's up on the inner wing there, so that'll come out for now, just whilst it's being prepped and painted. So yeah, it's pulled the front out. The actual inner wings, it's cracked over there, which is quite common, and it's the reason it normally goes there is when you start getting weaker turrets, or weaker top mounts. You can see where it's cracked there, so I can clean all that up, weld the necessaries to get that strength back in there, remove this, and no doubt there'll be a nice big hole in there for the cross member, as per standard on most minis. So unbolt that, prep and repair that first, then it's ready for a new one of these, because obviously this has now got a hole in it, so it's a bit weaker anyway. So for the case of replacing these, I will. Initially I thought I may do a full floor, and that might still be the case because it could cost over time, could weigh out the option. But there is differences, obviously. The cost of a full floor Heritage is about £700, and it's got the cross member, it's got the seat belt anchor points and all that kind of stuff. Or for £200 to £300 you can get an aftermarket one that needs the cross member welding back in, and the various strengthening pieces for like the seat belts again, anchorage points. But the way I'm thinking is, the floor that's in here, if I was to actually cut that out and replace the whole panel, I've got a decent cross member that, yes, is going to take a bit of time, but if I was to remove it and clean it, could actually go back in because it's not rotten. And the same with the seatbelt anchor points. I might need to buy the jacking point brackets, but again, they're not too expensive. It's had lower sections repaired through here. As you can see, someone's then taped it off and then tried to colour match it, probably rattle canned it, but they've used like a underbody sealant first on the repair. I don't know how much filler is or isn't in there in that point at the moment. There's a couple of odd snotty bits, nothing too major at the minute, but I don't know what the rest of the heel board's going to look like. But again, for the sake of a replacement heel board along with the floor, I'd rather do that. Someone has replaced the rear valance at some point, which is quite funny because it's actually been nut and bolted on because they obviously didn't trust their welds too good. There's a wing bolt there, various nuts and bolts as you carry on along, and you can see where they've drilled the old, and there's not much metal left of it. But one saving grace, as I said in the last video, it's got a brand new boot lid, and the actual floor itself, besides that patch repair there, I'll probably pick that off and make that obviously a lot tidier and neater. But at the moment, all the wheel tubs and everything like that look pretty decent. I've got to get the tank out, which is coming out tonight, to see, because obviously normally the floor corners, as you may well know in minis, go on the rear corners where it obviously leaks through the light fittings and various other points, maybe the filler neck and what have you. The tank's been drained here, and I've just let it drip over. The last couple of days it's just been open, so anything else in the tank can come out. Like I said, these bolts, luckily they came out, but again, like I said, the heel board's probably going anyway, so it didn't matter if they'd snapped. But it was these bolts that, if I can get that up there, so on the rear of the subframe here, it was the two bolts that actually go up in that were finger tight nuts. And whoever's put the valance on, good old sticker still left on there as well, and they haven't put closing panels. But if that comes off clean enough, just clean it up and it's ready to go again, because it's actually, as a piece of metal, it's solid. So yeah, I don't know, some people have some crazy ideas. Nice little nut and bolt there as well. I'm thinking with this car, it will be sold no doubt about it, because I like to build them. Don't really use them as often as I get a chance to build them, as I've said previously again. Not sure I'm going to keep the original colour. It says brown on the logbook. It is some form of brown stroke kind of dark reddy-ish colour. I'm sure, obviously, if I look on the VIN, it'll tell me the exact colour code. But I'm going to keep the standard 10s, keep them. It did have some little wheel arches on there. I'm probably, for now, going to weld up the little fixing points, clean that up. Again, on the front as well, but there'd be a new front end, so it won't have any holes in it anyway. Someone's done, again, probably half decent repair on the quarter panel. Then they've stone chipped it before painting it. But then, what the hell's happening here? If I show you from above, it's like it's been pushed in and then just kind of welded instead of being pulled out to the level of the sill so that it can continue the sill line. But you can see that was me the other day with just a screwdriver and it just pinged open. So really it's assessing once the whole interior is out, because at the moment it's still got a carpet in there anyway. But once the whole interior is out, I can see what the inside of the floor looks like, and also when I can get it on the rotisserie, what the underside of the floor looks like, because it's got a glued in section. So yeah, it's a bit cruddy and crispy in the corners, which standard Mini again. But you can see where it's had a patch repair up on this inner wing. They've cut halfway through the blanking plate because they couldn't even be bothered to move it, and a bit of metal slapped over the top, and the same on that side. So like I say, all these bits and pieces will be addressed. Trying not to spend too much on the build. I'm not going to put like a sound system and stuff in it, because if I sell it, then that's someone else's choice to do what they want to do with it. So my plan is to do what the necessaries are to make it safe, correctly welded. Sorry about that with the camera. Correctly welded, make it safe, make it nice and clean. Replace the necessary bits, any new brake lines, hoses, rubber mounts for engines, bits and pieces. The engine itself will get a good old degrease and then a fresh coat of paint to clean it up. The drivability of it was fine. The brakes, again, they're on drum brakes at the front, but that's original. I'm not going to put in the financial side of it to actually upgrade to discs. Again, if someone wants to, they can. But I will give it a good overhaul and replace any necessary, again, shoes, cylinders, you name it. Interior wise, needs a clean. And ideally, try and find a new seat cover for the driver's side, because that's the only one that's actually worn away. Other than that, it's got a black dash liner, single pod, and obviously he's got the door cards, and the rear seat is a bit grubby. Might be able to remove the seat cover and wash it. And again, with the headliner, I'll probably replace that because it's perforated one and it's got loads of stains on it. But yeah, keep it simple, keep it clean, replace what needs replacing to make it safe and make it look presentable. With that saying, I'm not really sure on the decisive colour, whether it goes red with a white or a black roof. No wheel arches because it's going to stay on 10s, and then somebody, if they wanted to, could change the wheels, fit arches to suit their needs. Keep the chrome as it is. I'm not going to de-chrome or do anything, it'll just go back to as it was. Bullet mirrors will stay because they're quite new and they're on the car and they do serve a purpose. Again, that's an item that can be changed without affecting any bodywork, because the fixing points are in the doors, and there's obviously a direct swap out for the standard mirror if you wanted to go back to that. So yeah, it's just keep it simple, keep it tidy. But like I said, stuck for colour. I've got plenty of time before I have to buy any colour paint anyway, you know, any paint for it. But it's what to go for: blue, green, red. Any comments would for what colour you guys may think. I don't want to go anything too jazzy. A solid colour would be fine, 2-pack gloss, or even if it's base and cleared, but just keeping it simple and standard. So head into the comments and let me know what colour you think it should go, without any drastic kind of 3-stage paints and all that kind of stuff, because as I say, keep it simple, keep it sweet. Right, till next time, keep your eyes peeled, people.